talking about the 2024 American horror film Wolfman.
Oh, 25.
Oh,
We're in a different
oh
year.
my God.
Oh no, what year are we in? We're time travelers.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for all things scary and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Well, welcome everyone. We got our lenses. We're ready to talk through all the things because today, 2 thumbs up. Are you trying to do the fireworks? Yeah.
Why doesn't it work for me?
That's for our YouTubers. That's why you have to watch us and see what crazy things we're trying to do. Mine doesn't work either right now, and it usually always works.
Yeah, it must
I
be
think
a
I just turned
setting
it
that
on.
Apple changed or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, where did you do that?
I clicked the little camera at the top and then reactions, and then it turned them on.
I see. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, we're back, baby.
Reactions.
We're back, baby. There's so many.
I have what I don't even. I'll find it.
Oh, I can just make them. Oh, I can just make them
Make them
happen.
appear. What?
Oh no!
Rain. Oh,
It's
that's why you do 2
raining
thumbs
on
down.
me.
And then it
Wait,
starts
rain is
raining.
thumbs down?
Yeah, I think it's 2 thumbs down. It should be rain. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's so wet.
I'm sorry.
God, this is
Hey, everyone
so
everyone
funny.
listening to us. Everyone listening to us on podcasts, I know this is terrible content.
Good content.
See, good content alert. Oh, hearts. This is why you have to also just kind of watch us to see the foolery and madness.
Yeah,
that's
hi
happening, but-
YouTube.
Hey, what's up? This is all even before we even tell you what we're talking about today.
I know.
Fun
You
times.
don't even know.
You don't even know. Well, I'm here to tell you right now because today, as producer Brian tries to make all the reactions come up on his screen, we're talking about the 2024 American horror film Wolfman.
Oh, 25.
Oh,
We're in a different year.
oh my God.
Oh no, what year are we in? We're time travelers.
Y'all, and I said that with my full heart.
Yes, you did.
2024.
2024
Try,
is
give it a
where
shot.
I
Give it
feel.
another shot. Give it another shot.
Oh, okay. And today we are talking about the 2025. That just feels wrong to say.
I know it does. It really does.
American horror film Wolfman.
To help, we were attacked by some kind of animal, and I think my husband was infected by it. He's not himself, and he can't talk. Yeah, he doesn't seem to know he's sick, but if someone can hear what I'm saying, please help.
Not to be confused with The Wolfman. No article in front of this. It's just Wolfman.
Oh.
Oh. So this movie was directed by Lee Winnell. We love him. We know him. Hashtag Saw. And this is a reboot of the 1941 film The Wolfman. That's where the article comes in. And it stars Christopher Abbott, Julia Garner, Matilda Firth, and Sam Yeager. So heavy spoilers if you have not seen the 2025 Wolfman. And Jamie, hit us with the trigger warnings while I try to find these things on my camera.
Yes. This is a creature feature. So if you, but different from the animal, it's a creature feature. So there is some body horror, transformational things like teeth and fingernails. Definitely skeeves people out, some like fleshy bits being exposed, perhaps gnawing on them at some points. Icky. Uh, and scary wolfmen, dead bodies, like blood loss, not being able to communicate. I feel like that's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or understand when people are communicating to you.
Yeah, sure.
I would say like generational trauma, strained marriages, and just you know, some wolfy bits, guns, saw, chopping off legs.
Oh my God. Yeah. I had to have it, you know?
Bear trap.
What else?
I didn't even put two and two together with
spiders.
that. Wow.
Spider thumping.
Oh yeah, there was a spider. I did look away at that part.
That spider was massive.
Yeah, that was a big ass spider.
Yuck.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, is that
everything? Also, if you don't like beautiful vistas in the Pacific Northwest, then this is definitely not the movie for you.
That place actually, because it was Oregon.
It was beautiful.
It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes. Great. Well, that's the trigger warnings for that. If it's for you, great. Or, you know, you don't have to watch. You can just listen to us talk about it. We'll tell you everything you need to know. But before that, producer Brian is going to give us some words.
Hi, everybody. Producer Brian here. Hi, YouTube. And hello, podcast listeners. Just wanted to let you know that we are still on TikTok. So at least for the next 90 days from when this first airs, we will be there. So at Talk Horror Pod, but I am trying to focus a little bit more on Instagram. So more than I did before, I should say. So if you're there, I'm there too at Talk Horror Pod. You'll see different reviews of other movies, some lists, some thoughts, things like that. So definitely follow us in those two places. And you can also find me at Nutty Professor on Letterboxd, and then Jamie. Are you emo support Jamie on Letterboxd?
Let's find out.
But you can. It's all of these are in the description below. So you can definitely find us there. And we're just, you know, it's the beginning of the year. We've had a couple of season 8. We've got a couple under our belt, and we're just so happy you're here. You're finding us. You're joining us. It's been. I'm having some of the best time ever doing this podcast. So I hope that you're having the best time ever listening to this podcast. And if you're not, don't fucking tell us.
Yeah, I don't know. Keep that to yourself.
Yeah, Jesus, come on.
Golly, because we're just hashtag doing our best.
We're just
know?
doing
We are
doing our best.
hashtag doing our best.
And just vibing, you know.
Vibing.
We're just here for the vibes. Random question about the whole like TikTok thing, because I was so confused. I thought that when it was banned, like everyone's profile just like got erased, but I guess that did not happen.
The ban was essentially like the stores that hosted here just like could not host it anymore. And
but they also like turned off the servers, so like the app like was not accessible for US based folks.
Yeah, but
okay.
But the profiles still exist in their, you know, in their data worlds.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Being very specific. But they're still there. We still have our followers. I really would like to get to 20,000 followers this year. That's if it's still around. That's my goal. My 2 goals are: I want to go to Fantastic Fest. I want to go.
Fantastic.
I want to go to Fantastic Fest, and I want to hit to 20K followers. So if you're listening, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. That's what we need here.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all.
Just click a little follow. It doesn't hurt you at all. Just
move that.
It helps us.
It helps us
to the follow. Cool.
Yes. Fantastic. Well, I have to tell y'all, I watched Speak No Evil, the OG Danish.
Oh, you watched the original one.
Woo! And what
Did
a
you
wild
like it?
ride. I did, but I was like, I knew what to expect, and then I didn't. And I think that was a
Interesting.
great positive.
Yeah,
Because have y'all watched it?
I have.
I have not,
Okay.
but
But
I will not unless you all make me.
I've
I'm
only
screaming.
seen the original. I have not
Yes.
seen the remake from last year. But I heard it was good, surprisingly. So I am interested in
Same.
seeing it. And I don't want to read it. Like I want to watch it and see if and how they change the ending.
Right, because they have to change the ending. That
Because also that the
no way.
original ending is very like European, like dark. Whereas I
Mhm.
just have a feeling that the other ending will be the American
that.
ending will be different. But I don't know. I don't want to be spoiled for it.
Yeah, I was talking to our friend Desmond, who was on the
Yeah.
show with us, because he watched both of them as well, and he was just also commenting on how good the remake, the American remake, was. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to
It's a real
watch
butt
that. But
clencher.
oh my gosh, I was just like, nobody can catch a break in this.
No. And then you know what? That movie, you know, something I've talked about a lot here, and we've all talked about a lot here, but I happen to bring up more often than not because I don't know, I'm whatever, I'm a weirdo. But there's a moment in every movie where like the main character has a choice, and they're gonna make the wrong choice because you're only 20 minutes or an hour into the movie. So like Creep has one that's like very clear, and then this one has one that's very clear. And every time I think about him choosing to get the doll,
Yes.
I absolutely want to die inside.
I stopped the movie and
I want
text
to die
Desmond
inside.
in that exact moment, and I was like, throw the whole movie away.
There is no
Throw the whole
world
movie away.
in which you know what the miracle of that movie is, though. We'll get off it in a second, but I just want to say
Yes.
the miracle of Speak No Evil is that even though you know they're making the wrong decisions, the characters are so well drawn that you believe that those people are making those decisions, and that's why that movie works, because those characters are believable even though the decisions are truly asinine.
Absolutely. I think I agree completely, because how they set it up,
Yeah.
you're not thinking this is out of the blue for this person to make this choice.
The father doing that makes perfect sense.
It does.
It's insane, but anyway.
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, so I'm definitely going to watch. And actually, I told my dad to watch the American version, and he watched it last night. We haven't had a chance to like talk about it. But he quickly just told me that it was he enjoyed it, so I'm excited to watch
cool.
the remake and
there's something that I want to bring up that Nikisha brought up in a text. One of my goals this year is to not watch horror trailers.
Yes.
Now, I'm specific. I will watch teaser trailers, meaning the first trailer that each movie releases that maybe is 50 seconds, maybe a minute and a half at the most, that really all is about vibe, is kind of about like basic plotting, just so you kind of know what you're getting into, who the actors are, all that stuff. However, this year, I will not be watching any full trailer. Anything after the teaser, I'm not going to watch, because the closer that the trailer gets to the release of the movie, they just like the marketing team just like doesn't give a shit. They want your butt in your seat, so they're going to basically show you the entire movie. And most of the like major releases have the like multiple types of trailers. Because apparently I didn't watch it on purpose, but Jamie told me that the Wolfman like transition and stuff was a little bit spoiled in the most recent Wolfman trailer, and more importantly, the companion trailer apparently shows a lot. When the companion trailer came on before Wolfman, Jamie let me know that this was the trailer, and I had the benefit of her telling me, obviously. I literally put my fingers in my ears, and then we were eating chicken. I put a piece of chicken in my mouth and started chewing it so that like I couldn't hear anything.
Not the chicken.
And that's what I did. My goal, because because so many movies have been ruined recently, and it's the jump scares get spoiled, so you know they're coming. It's also like seeing like that character is only in one scene and then they're not in the rest of the trailer. So you're like, oh, they die very early in this movie or something like that.
Yeah.
But then also cameos, plot points are ruined. You know, I recently rewatched the Insidious trailer, the original Insidious trailer. They spoil the movie in the trailer. The twist of the movie,
Oh yeah, they
spoiler alert,
say that it's not the house. They say it's him.
in the trailer. I'm like, that's one of the best twists in a horror movie of all time, because you're undercutting everyone thinking that this anyway. You're
yes.
So that's my goal this year, to not do that, because I know that Nikisha, you had a companion run-in at what's it called?
I was so upset, and I immediately text Brian and Jamie and was like, because Jamie already warned us about it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I don't think I have been spoiled for Companion. But of course, when I went to go see Wolfman and they're playing all the trailers, they played that Companion trailer, and a major plot point got released, and I was undone because I was so excited to see that movie, and then you basically just told me the biggest like plot twist of it, and you didn't need to. There was no reason to say that at all about it.
And what's also disappointing, so Barbarian is the example that I give, and even though you didn't like it as much as we did, Nikisha, like the fun of that movie is not fucking knowing what was going to happen, because the trailer doesn't spoil anything.
Yeah.
And Companion is by the same one of the same producers maybe of that, and it's just like, do what you did there. That's the excitement of it. And honestly, you know who also did a good job? The Megan trailers. Sure, they showed you like the dancing a little bit.
Sure.
But that was more to show you what the vibe and the silliness of it is. When you actually saw the movie, so much of that movie was new. Like, spoiler, like her singing Titanium, or like there was so much in that movie that was not in the like. Anyway, long story short, that is my goal. I will watch teaser trailers, and that's it. Even if I do, I will probably only watch teaser trailers for like major releases. And I will watch like the B movie that won't get a theatrical release trailers, because they probably only get one trailer, and like those are sometimes very fun to watch, like the Little Mermaid trailer for the murderous Little Mermaid. Anyway, that was my little parlor talk.
Come sit, have a drink. It's parlor talk.
Trailer
failure, parlor talk.
But I just thought it was important because Nikisha, you brought it up, and you reminded me of it when we were talking about Speak No Evil.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you did bring it up, because especially the jump scares.
Also, the Speak No Evil trailer just shows the whole movie except for the end.
Yeah. Right.
Like the whole twist in Speak No Evil about like spoiler alerts. No, I'm not. There's a twist in Speak No Evil that is like that should not be in the trailer. Like, but it is. And anyway, yeah.
It's like go back to a time. But like you said, Brian, I know it's like butts in the seats, and this is the last thing I'll say about it. But
let's go back to like in a world where we don't reveal everything that happens.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like Hard Eyes. I feel like they gave away the best killing in the trailer.
Well, the good kills are in there too. Also, like, how fun would it have been if, I know this is a hard one to kind of sell without spoiling it, but Trap. Wouldn't it have been more fun if the part of the reveal in Trap was that he halfway through, so there are like multiple twists, even though you could probably guess it based on the trailer.
Yeah,
anyway,
but
whatever.
Still,
yeah. I mean, what about Abigail?
That's a great one. Yes, that's a great.
Which I understand that they had to adapt from something called like Dracula's Daughter, but like, I feel like you didn't have to reveal that information, and you could have figured out. You could have still like highlighted, vampire-y things happening, but not reveal like your biggest thing.
Yes,
there's a total way to cut that. That's a great example.
Yeah,
totally.
Do better, please. We want to support you.
Tomato.
I have a feeling that I'm gonna like a lot more of the movies this year because my expectations are set to a different level. Like I might
Unless
be
it's the
excited.
opposite, because you might be really excited for things and then be like, "That was stinky butts," because you haven't actually watched the other trailers.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. So
Stinky butts.
that's one of the things I'm going to report on as the year goes by in terms of like my trailer life.
Yeah. So I
Your
guess no more
trailer.
trailer reactions from you.
No, I'll probably do the teaser trailers, and that's it.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
agree. Like, leave it
Yeah.
up to you have no expectation and just go in blind. Love it.
yeah. Like
Mhm.
Here for
you
it.
know what a good example of an excellent teaser trailer is? The first Omen teaser trailer. It just was all
Mm-hmm.
vibes. Most of those stuff was done backwards. It was like, what is this
Mm,
thing? And then I don't think
I
I
forgot
watched
about
another
that.
trailer for it,
Yeah.
by accident or on purpose. I don't know.
I didn't even
And
remember
I
there
thought the movie
being
was great.
another one.
Yeah. Anyway, that was another example of
Love
a
it.
good one.
Yeah. Great. Well, we're here to talk about Wolfman, and I'm sure we'll also be talking about some of the stuff that was revealed in the trailer and how that ties into how we feel about the movie. But we need a plot summary of it. So, producer Brian is going to give us a 2-minute plot summary of Wolfman.
What's the plot?
Okay.
Minutes. All right.
Menos.
Producer Brian, you have 2 minutes on the clock to tell us everything that you learned about Ow Wolfman. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Ready, steady, go.
Okay, a young boy and his father are in Oregon. They go hunting together. The father is raising him by himself. Super, super harsh dad, military dad. Anyway, they're hunting in the woods. Something goes wrong. They're being hunted by something, and end up getting away. Flash forward years later, that son is now an adult. He has his own kid. His father has disappeared. He and his wife are kind of like having a little bit of trouble. They live in San Francisco. They're both writers. One of them has kind of found work in journalism. The other one, him, is kind of in between jobs, raising the daughter full time. He finally gets a letter that his missing father has been declared, quote, dead. So they get the keys to the house and they decide to kind of to be a family again, to kind of repair their relationship. They're going to go to Oregon from San Francisco and attempt to kind of clear out the house, maybe spend some time there, just get some fresh air. Anyway, they get to Oregon. It's all in the backwoods. They meet a guy who was a friend of his. They get into a car accident, and because they're almost run over something. He gets scratched by whatever this is. It's a wolf man. He gets scratched by whatever this is. Takes the person he met away. The family runs to the house, and then the entire movie is basically his transformation. So he gets infected, and then the whole movie he is like turning and turning. He can't understand his family. Anyway, the wolfman who turned him turns out to be his father. He kills his father, the wolfman, and then essentially he starts to kind of hunt his family. But you can see his internal struggle. He's trying not to kill them. He ends up cutting off his own leg to escape the bear trap they put him in. He hunts them down, and then essentially, like, the daughter recognizes that he's just begging for mercy, so they kill him, and
Oh.
they get to experience the beautiful Pacific Northwest together.
Now that he's
That
dead.
is the Wolfman, or Wolfman. No article. Wolfman.
Great job. Great job.
And that's the plot.
Wolfman, no article. Great. All right. So for Wolfman, let's get into our segment Trick or Treat, where we let you know if this was a trick, we hated it, or we don't know how we feel about it, or if it was a treat, we enjoyed it.
Trick. Treat.
So, Jamie, trick or a treat?
I think this is somewhere around or a treat, like a combo platter for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Producer Brian.
This I'm in the same place as Jamie. This is more of an this is somewhere between and a treat, because I was locked in while watching it, but like thinking through it now, like I'm a little bit disappointed in what I saw, because admittedly this was in my top most anticipated movies of this year.
Right, right.
And so I'm gonna say somewhere in there for me.
Yeah, I think I'm smack dab in the
Mm.
spot too. Maybe 60-40 leaning in on treat. Because there
Okay.
was some really nice moments that I liked in it. But great. So let's get into why we feel the way that we feel in likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
Brian, since this was your most anticipated and you are the creature feature guru of the podcast, why don't you go first?
Sure. I was really locked in watching this movie. I was engaged the entire time. I thought that when this movie was good, it was great. And when this movie was great, it was spectacular. The good things about this movie were some of the best stuff I've seen in a while. For instance, the werewolf point of view. I thought that stuff was awesome. The sound design
So
on
cool.
that, the camera like switching back and forth from the husband and the wife, where like he can't hear anything and she can't understand him. I just thought all that stuff and kind of the lighting coming down and like him kind of feeling isolated. I thought all of that was just absolutely fantastic. I thought the acting was really good. I think that I personally think Christopher Abbott is a spectacular actor. He's in one of my favorite horror movies I'll never watch again, Possessor.
Right.
I thought the tension building in this movie was amazing. And as I mentioned in the plot, what I really liked about this movie is that every Wolfman movie is, quote, known or, infamous for its transformation scene. Whether it is the original 1941 movie, whether it is the 2010 movie with Benicio del Toro, like all of these, any werewolf movie, for the American Werewolf in London, all that stuff. What I thought was really clever about this movie is that the majority of the movie is his transition. And I thought that was super cool. I thought this movie was really clever also. I liked the Native American um uh lore at the beginning, trying to like ground this in something. I thought that was interesting. I liked getting rid of all the werewolf lore. I liked getting rid of the full moon, and I liked getting rid of like the silver bullets and stuff like that. I thought that like this was a very interesting way to present it. It was super clever. I liked the spider. I like when he can. I thought one of the best scenes in this movie is when he thinks that the werewolf is upstairs, and so does the audience. But his hearing is getting so much more intense that he just hears the spider walking on the wall. I thought that was absolutely great. All of that stuff is amazing. Also, some of the body horror in this is great. The gnawing on the arm like a dog was awesome. The fingernails breaking off was fantastic. The ode to the old Universal movie with like behind him, he like the shot of him and going into the woods, like with the camera behind him out of kind of out of focus with his hairy back. I thought that was cool. Anyway, I just thought a lot of this movie was really, really, really good. But that's why the other stuff was a disappointment. So, for instance, I'll let Jamie talk a little bit more about this, but I thought I thought that the script, yeah, I thought the script needed a little bit more. I think that the allegory of generational anger did not track with this plot because in the setup for these characters, so the allegory is supposed to be that his father was kind of like an angry man who he was afraid passed his anger down to his kid, and he was going to pass his anger down, or at least use that anger to scar his kid in how he raises them, like his father did to him. Totally get it. And then the Wolfman transformation would have been, this allegory for it passing down to him, the anger inside finally breaking out, like all of that stuff. However, he's not angry at the beginning of this movie.
He's so nice. He's like a really good dad.
He's a good dad. and switching to the end, this character did not get the fate that he deserved. Him family having to kill him and then live their life without him, he did not earn that in this movie. He was a good father who was just scared and nervous that he was going to do that. Was he a little frustrated with his wife and his life and stuff like that? Sure. Was she frustrated with him and her life? 100%. one, she's completely underdeveloped and is just there to like run around and scream. But but I just think we needed either that fight between the two of them at the beginning when she's on the phone in the kitchen needed to be huge. Like he needs to really like snap or whatever it is. Or maybe he had been put in jail for his anger issue. We needed something to show that he actually has. Maybe he lost his job because he gets angry when people send him like feedback for his books or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It was totally void of setup for both characters. Plus they don't have good chemistry together, so like a lot of the lovey-dovey stuff didn't really read for me. Um, um, I wanted more. Yeah, I wanted more camera switching in general. I thought that the movie was incredibly predictable in that once you set up the father and this generational anger and he was missing, like you know that the werewolf that's out there is his father. He's going to infect him with his anger, his whatever, and then he's going to get it and he's going to try and fight it. You know what I mean? And that's and we knew that was all going to happen. However, I was still pretty engaged in general, and that last scene really didn't. I just didn't. He didn't deserve that fate. It was a very weird thing. And then he says something to the effect of like, "Sometimes you make scars that last" to his kid or whatever it is. Any heavy-handed dialogue that tried to support the themes of this movie did not work because they didn't feel natural and they felt like studio notes, like, oh, they don't get it, you have to put more information in there. Plus the allegory just didn't work for me because it didn't track. Like he was a good dude. Like this movie had so much potential. The idea is so clever, and I think that some of the technical aspects of this, and as I mentioned, Christopher Abbott's physicality in creating this character over the course of like an hour is truly amazing. Creature wise, I kind of liked the toned down Wolfman look in this one. I didn't need like a full wolf kind of look. Would I have liked it in the end? Maybe, because I didn't think the climax was that special. But that's kind of where that's where I really land on this. Like some of it is amazing and I was locked in and it's doing things I've never seen in a werewolf movie. And then the other half of it is like you're trying too hard to be Invisible Man with the allegory. And I think if you had just finessed the script a little bit more, then I think you really could have gotten there. Because I feel like Christopher Abbott is very good at playing these like powder keg characters. And I felt like this character didn't have that powder keg like feel to it. So that's kind of that's where I land on all of this. Oh, I also thought when they were in the hunting blinds at the beginning and the end, I really liked the seeing the breath around the that's all you see of the monster. I thought that was super cool. And one of my favorite jump scares in this, obviously one was spoiled from the trailers. The window one was spoiled. I really liked the one at the beginning of the movie where he's looking through the hunting scope and he sees something standing there. I thought that was an awesome the jump scare. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it. If this, I think I would have liked this more if I wasn't so excited for Lin Whannell to direct another Universal movie like he did with the incredible Invisible Man. But that's not, to me, that's not trailer failure per se. I mean, the trailer for this was amazing, but that's not trailer failure per se. That's just like, it just didn't scratch the itch for me. Yeah. It didn't gnaw the scar for me.
Gnaw the arm for you. Yes.
Yeah.
Oof.
No, I agree. I just wanted to piggyback on the line about the scars and like leaving them for your kids and stuff, because I also was like, this is very, very heavy handed, but also I did not even get the whole angry man to wolf man like pipeline because, and it was so funny because I was looking on, Wikipedia to prepare for like, the director to prepare for this podcast. And I was just reading the first line of the plot and it said something about like, and now the anger from the dad is with the father and his daughter. And I was like, wait, what? Because he was so nice. I didn't even think like that's what the whole thing was like the anger being passed down. And so then when I was going back in my notes, I was like, oh, and then now that scar line feels so heavy handed. And that's what they were trying to tell you, but it doesn't make sense because he seems like truly the nicest and best dad, especially up against the wife, because they make it known that she doesn't have the best relationship with the daughter. So you really are thinking like, oh, like, and the daughter is so close to the dad that it was just like, why is this the case? Why are we making this narrative of it?
Wouldn't it have been interesting if the kid had an anger issue and the dad did too, and like, and then he was spending more time
Everyone's
with
so angry.
Yeah, like if she, I don't know, there's something in there that could have easily been tweaked for the allegory to work a bit more, but still like these characters. Like I think we could have liked these characters. These are just regular human people who have, you know, these things that they're trying to work through and just trying to be, they're humans with flaws. And you know, all of a sudden the daughter is showing signs of the anger that the father has shown in the past, that his father kind of, and maybe if we even saw him like on an app, like, you know, like a breathing app or a meditation app, or maybe we saw him in with a therapist, like doing something, you know, like just anger management class or something like that. That is one easy change. I don't know. Anyway, or his probation officer, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know.
Anything.
Anything.
Truly anything but what was presented, because
yeah.
And I agree with everything you said, Brian. So I'll keep mine short because you said all the things that I liked about this, especially just the tent of the view of the Wolfman, like, and how, you know, everybody's eyes were glowing through the eyes of like the Wolfman. I just thought all that was great, just that transition between those two shots, and like the camera even kind of like shaking a little bit. I just thought that was really cool, how all that was filmed. And even you mentioned, Brian, some of the past tropes of Wolfman, like I didn't even think about those because I was so invested in what was happening in this movie.
Totally.
So usually, because we watch a lot of vampire movies, we're like, oh, okay, what's the thing they're going to say about vampires? Is it going to be the stake? Is it going to be sunlight? Is it going to be whatever? But this one, it was like, I wasn't even thinking about it because I was just invested in this. But it was also interesting that he changes only with a scratch, because for some reason I was thinking like a bite, but it's like, oh, you just get scratched and you turn, like, that's even crazier.
Yeah.
So I liked all that. And gosh, there was one thing that was a little confusing to me, and I'm gonna be honest, I was in this movie theater and I was like very tired from the day, so I was just trying to stay awake. But
sure. Been there, done that.
Yikes. Yes. But in the middle of the transition, it seemed like the wife jumped to the conclusion very quickly that he was turning into a werewolf. And like, we know it because we know what the movie is about, right? But it just didn't feel like there was a lot of evidence that we are seeing that's given to her for her to jump to the conclusion that
that's
something
an interesting
was happening.
Point. I also think, well, so the way that I filled that plot hole, if you will, is my assumption is that he and his wife have talked about his dad like being obsessed with like these creatures and stuff like that, and has filled him in on that stuff. Maybe, I don't know. I think one extra conversation in there about his dad and what she knows and what he knows, like, you know, when she asks him like, how are you, one scene that I really liked, like, how are you feeling, like when they were asking about that, you know, I think there could have been a little line of exposition, be like what's his name, Blake, is that was his name? Blake, like, your father like went crazy towards the end with this like crazy like thing in the woods. Like, that's another thing. He could be like nervous that he was getting both his father's like paranoia and the anger. Like, there's another thing that you could have layered in there, but also would have used for exposition. And then in the cabin, she'd be like, oh shit, like all of this is real. You know, this is an actual Native American disease called face of the wolf. Like that would have read a little bit better than what actually happened.
Right. Because it just seemed like we quickly went to, I think my husband is sick. He was like, you know, scratched, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, so that just kind of happened a little fast for me. But like you said, I loved all of the prosthetics. I also loved the full transformation. It didn't need to be anything crazy. I thought it was very grounded in what they were doing, especially with how the tone of the movie was. I think that if it was too much of like wolfy-wolf, it would have been a little bit distracting. Wolfy-wolf.
Too much what?
Wolfy-wolf.
Wolfy
A
Wolf,
little
of
too
course.
wolfy-wolf.
Wolfy-wolf. I see.
So yeah, I dug that. And the, you know, great callback to biting off the leg. But then I was like, how you gonna run? You ain't got no foot. And he was
I
just
know.
crawling up that thing.
Yeah,
You
I
ain't
was
got no
really
leg,
thinking
Lieutenant Dan.
about it and was like, he's really moving.
He's moving fast, but
To be fair, I've seen three-legged dogs who are
fair.
very fast.
Fair. Yes.
What about wolfmen?
That I haven't seen. I'm actually kind of glad. Now I'm like looking around my office being like,
right.
These wolfmen.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's like good, like you said, Brian, there was some parts that I was super invested in and enjoyed, and some jump scares that got me, and then other parts that just because the dots weren't connecting, it just kind of left me having some questions, wondering about the overall picture. But and when I first saw the trailer for the movie, I thought that Julia Gardner's was like his daughter. Like it's like two daughters in the movie. They definitely don't seem like romantic pairs to me.
Something I did like, he was a very millennial parent, like apologizing for yelling. Like I thought that was really interesting, and I think that there's more to explore there.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it was some good family moments in it. But it was very heartbreaking that he had to die at the end, and you know, I just felt bad. And I don't know what their point was, if it was with the anger and we're not supposed to, you know, But I didn't. I was like, I'm sad that he has to die. This is
it was it was a bummer.
But yeah, that's all my thoughts about that. Jamie?
Yeah, I felt similarly. So like when we first watched this movie, I expressed feeling a lot of these things to Brian. But I don't think a lot of these feelings had really set in because I feel like he was still kind of like processing the movie. And there are a lot of things that I do really enjoy about this movie, kind of like the things that were named. Like I agree about the acting, I agree about the transformation, I agree about just like the general like cinematography. I thought was really beautiful. I knew you were going to do it.
General cinematography.
And the like a lot of the ambiance was really, you know, tense and stressful. Like this was a very tense movie to sit through. I don't think that it was like overly scary. I think that some of the scares were kind of lessened because the transformation takes place over such a longer period of time that it's because of that like kind of slower build, then it's more tense versus like straight up like jump scary. So but I like if you're kind of making that calculation, I like that they took that approach as opposed to the jump scary approach, because I think that it made it feel more like it's not like it's not gothic horror, but like there is something kind of like focusing on the beauty and like the tension within the beauty that I feel like aligns with gothic horror. So I like that there's a lot of interesting, unique perspectives that Lee Winnell has on Wolfman. But again, I think that there's way too much said that should have just been subtext, that like it just seems very strange that some of these characters would say these things, and reads as if like whatever execs watched this movie, like the point went over their heads and he was like, okay, I guess I have to like be more explicit and like write it out for them. And I just think that you're then treating your audience a little bit like they're stupid, which like maybe we are. I don't know. Look at the world we're in. But it made it harder for me to like really enjoy the movie as much, because I was like, no one would say things like this.
No.
And Brian, I think that you make a really interesting point of like, millennial parenting, what does that look like? And where are we in the, in like the parenting generations, and like how do we communicate with our children? And like, obviously we're new parents with a baby that isn't communicating yet. So like, I am no expert. Um, but yeah, it did. The way that he was talking to her was really fascinating to me, because I was like, would somebody talk to their younger child in that way? And again, like, I'm also not like a child development expert. I don't work with kids. But there were some moments where I was like, sometimes the concepts and the way that he's talking to her, it feels like he's talking to another adult. And in some ways, maybe that's helpful, where it's like you know, you're treating your child not just like a baby, but like kind of speaking to them as like, a person who maybe is gaining an understanding about like certain topics that are harder to you know to learn unless you experience them, like death, for example. It's like, who knows how to talk to their kids about death and like grief and things like that? Like, those are really complex ideas that aren't very straightforward. And so trying to figure out like the best way to explain it, and to like be transparent as a parent when like your own parent dies, how do you explain that to your child? When you have complicated feelings about anyone, any relationship, how do you explain that to a child? So like, I think that those are really interesting concepts. However, again, if we're supposed to buy into this theme of generational trauma and like that this anger is passed down, these are all like literally the opposite. Like, this is someone who is overly communicative with his child and not like quick to anger or quick to get angry, or like erratic or irritable. Like, he's like very open and like not like chill, but just like is way more lax. And we're getting the mom and his wife as like this uptight corporate yada yada. Like, there's a lot of like competing ideas and themes that then feel really messy, because I'm like, you're trying to convince me that like this is the type of person that this is, but you've done a bad job, because this is actually like the way he's acting is actually more like lax and open and more compassionate and empathetic, and not this like angry, irate, mean dad. But then you're talking about like, the one line that really got me, and I'm gonna butcher it and not say it exactly right, but it was like, sometimes in trying so hard to like not cause trauma to your children, you end up inadvertently causing trauma to your children. And I was like, first of all, no one would say that. Like, that's not something that anyone's communicating in that way. It felt so inauthentic, but that is like the thesis of the movie. That's the thesis statement. So I'm like, I get that that's what they're trying to accomplish, but like, again, hitting us over the head with it, I think, makes me feel like you don't think that I can think critically enough to get there on my own. And quite frankly, you have not done enough to show me that that is your thesis statement, but I'm still smart enough to know that that's what you're trying to do. So like, I'm doing a lot of work to not fill in the blanks, because again, you've made it very clear, but like trying to think about how you could have done a better job at this. And so then I'm still already like, my wheels are spinning to like do all of that, when you could have done some of the things that you both had mentioned about like how that more effectively demonstrate that like this is the theme of the movie that we're trying to work through. So that all collectively, I think, was my biggest problem. Is like, I do think that some people weren't quite peopling, just in terms of how they were communicating. Like with regard to what theme they were trying to, what's like the thesis statement of the movie that they were trying to suggest. So, but again, all of that being said, like, I would kind of come in and out of it, of being annoyed that like some of the conversations like felt really weird and fake, but then be like, wow, this is really like beautiful, or like very impressive, or like, oh, that's disgusting. Like, one of my favorite things that they did was like the shifting camera angles where they would tilt, because part of it kind of made me motion sick, but that then felt like, oh, that's what he's experiencing. Like, he is like totally disoriented and like cannot, keep it together. And like the way that it was immediately physically instilled in me was very impressive. So I hope to see more of like, neat camera tricks. Like, I mean, it's not even a camera trick, but like neat things like that moving forward, because again, I think something that I want to see more of is like empathy and compassion through media, especially horror. And like, what a great way to have your audience experience what your protagonist is experiencing with like a really easy, tilt-a-whirl vibe. So
that was really cool.
it was very, very cool. I think another shout out to Christopher Abbott that I really liked was, I think Brian also mentioned this too, like his transformation, like even before he actually starts getting some of the makeup things, but like he really is an incredible actor. My favorite thing was watching his like body kind of like twitch as he was like having these enhanced hearing skills, I get, or like whatever new things he was getting. And like the way that you could tell he was like like be a wolf, and like he was like, does that make sense? Like it sounds silly, but like I think he was really embodying these like slow incremental changes in his senses that I really believed he was going through this metamorphosis, and that made me enjoy it even more. And it's like, oh, like even with a lot of these practical effects kind of being added on to over time, you don't even need that to like get elements of the transformation that's taking place, and that definitely made it more enjoyable as well. But again, I think another thing that like on the flip side is he wasn't even super ferocious in some ways. Like I think that he still had some degree of like withholding and not like fully letting go, as this like, are we saying that like wolf men are bloodthirsty and like ravenous? Like, is that the vibe? Because if so, that is not the vibe that we got from him.
Sure.
And so then it kind of makes me wonder, like, is it like a individual nature thing that influences that? Because like his dad was a dick and his dad was attacking him. But then it's like, then I feel like we're getting too deep, or I'm getting too deep in my own head to try to like explain why he didn't seem as like lethal as his dad Wolfman version did. So that kind of felt inconsistent. I don't know. So these were just some of the nitpicky things that I was like, I don't know about all that.
Yeah. And maybe it was just because of how long his dad had been Wolfman and been in the forest that
true.
him,
Yeah, like losing his sense of self over a longer period of time and just succumbing to the wolfiness.
The wolfiness.
The wolfy-wolf of it all.
The wolfy-wolf of it all. Absolutely. Fantastic. Does anyone have any other thoughts about this?
Wolf.
The barn scene was interesting because A, it was too dark in general.
Oh yeah.
But B, the complete darkness of it did pay off when you flip to the werewolf point of view, where he can see everything.
Yes.
I do think that there were parts that did feel a little too dark. Or like there was a part where they're like staring out into the forest, but like it's fucking dark. You can't see anything. So I was like, are we looking at something? Are we looking for something? Like, what's the point of this? And I feel like it only pays off with something like that other scene that you described, where it does do the flip and you can actually see that he is there seeing them. But like without that, I hate scenes where it's just like I'm looking at the dark and it's like, am I supposed to be seeing something here? Is something actually like, is there a threat here, or is there nothing there? And you're just showing me
the shadows.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's like Hereditary when like she's on the bedroom, like on the ceiling.
But that's like a blink if you miss it, like blinking you'll miss it moment, which I also think is great. And like on rewatches, it's like, oh shit, she was there the whole time if you didn't catch it. But like I feel like then there's other movies where like there really isn't anything there, and I'm like, what am I?
Like why am I working harder than I need to?
We're still an audience who still needs to see the movie to understand it. Like
and like I'm sitting in a movie theater watching it it in like prime AMC. Like, I should be able to see something if there's something there. If there is not something there, why are we doing this?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Yes. Anything else on this?
No, I think
No.
I'm good.
No, I'm done
Good.
complaining.
But those are good. Like, I don't even think they're complaints. They're constructive criticisms that are very nice.
Lee, I believe in you. You know, you have some good things in your belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this isn't like, I'm not like concerned about his career or like
Right.
other movies or anything. And again, it wasn't like an all bad movie by any means.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. There's some good points, and he has a really good
Yeah.
eye for things. So, I mean,
Yeah,
we're still
this
gonna
had
keep watching his movies.
Yeah, just like the werewolf, this had an actual point of view and
Mhm.
felt like he was trying to do something. Whether it worked or not is obviously up for debate, but
Mhm.
that's what I like about it. Like, my butt will be in a seat for his movies because I know he's bringing something unique to it, even if it doesn't click all the time.
Yeah, because this movie, like we said, is still very unique in how
Mhm.
he presented a Wolfman who's had however many movies before. Like, I
Yeah,
don't even know what this
totally.
is in the Great. So let's move on to our next section. Brains. Tasty. Okay, so we've kind of touched on this, or Jamie has kind of touched on this, but I would just like to know, in your professional opinion, why is it that when someone tries so hard to not raise their children like their parents raised them, they ultimately end up doing the exact thing anyway? And how can
Ooh,
we actively break away from that pattern?
good question. Good question. Good
Yay! Thank
question.
you.
Spectacular question.
So I was actually going to say, like, I feel like that's up for debate, that like
Right.
we're all doing the same thing the same way,
Mhm.
generationally. Like, I feel like, again, going back to like millennials versus Gen X versus like boomers, I feel
Mhm.
like there is a big shift in a different direction in terms of how a lot of millennials are choosing to parent. Like, you have this whole like gentle parenting phenomenon, and like, where does that idea come from? And this is me, I'm speaking on the soapbox with no research base whatsoever, but like,
I thought you were
just
gonna say
the
with no soap. I don't know
On a soapbox
why.
with no soap. Yes.
yes, I'm on the soapbox with no soap whatsoever.
Yes.
But yeah, like, where do these new parenting trends come from? And I feel like it comes out of like things that perhaps millennials experienced or Gen Xers experienced, that they were like, perhaps this doesn't work for us. But
Mm-hmm.
also, maybe there's elements about that like aren't working for everyone too? Because I think sometimes then people misconstrue gentle parenting with like completely permissive parenting, and like allowing
Absolutely.
their children to like not implementing any kind of restrictions or boundaries on behaviors, which like also not so great. So I think that I think paying attention to like generational experiences can definitely inform a lot about, how we choose to act and behave, and like the things, the values that are important to us, and things like that. um but I think that in terms of what this movie is trying to say, I like kind of not necessarily about parenting per se, but maybe more about generational trauma. I think that there are things that like impact us and linger because of these same messages that are instilled over time. And like, I think that's where it's harder to break away, because like, you know, we trauma does not define us, but we do certainly carry elements of it with us in
Mm-hmm.
our lives after we might have experienced it. And so like, trying to fully compartmentalize that and not having it impact any relationships, including the way that we parent, I feel like is pretty challenging. And so I think that it's really important to pay attention to, you know, some of the ways that we have been impacted, some of the things that come out of these experiences, and like and how do we want to change in terms of how we're connecting with other people, or the messages, or like, I think one example that I think a lot about is like body image.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, they talk about like almond moms, and just these like very restrictive dieting habits and behaviors that like are instilled at a very young age. And now also, like, now we have social media that's reinforcing it too. But even outside of that, I think a lot about like, what messages do I want to instill in my child that are rooted more in like, I just want you to be happy, and less about like, you need to look a certain way, or like, you need to eat these things because like it's the healthy thing to do under a guise of like fat phobia or something like that. So it's like all of these things that like I become mindful of based on my own experiences, and like things that I want to dismantle or break so that they are not being imposed on my own child. But like, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I'm less aware of that have impacted me that I also could be perpetuating and not realizing it. So I think the answer, as it is most often, is go to therapy, folks. Go to therapy, learn
Yay!
about yourselves, reflect on yourselves, because like, knowledge is power, and the more you learn about yourself, the more you're able to like, you know combat some of these like generational traumas, and hopefully act differently, and maybe intervene a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said too about there might be some trauma things that you don't even realize that have
Hmm.
happened, with through the parenting that was given to you. And I think it's also the other way around too. There's just in my own experience, there are some things when I talk with my parents that they don't realize that they have passed down to me, and like where their intentions weren't malicious, it's like it
Sure.
still has an effect on
Hmm.
the child. So it's like it's very interesting that um, seeing it in that way. But great. My next question is, so there was a moment where the daughter calls out the parents for having like a little argument at
Mm-hmm.
dinner. And so I just wanted to ask, how do you feel about parent conflict in front of children? Like not necessarily yelling and screaming. Because I also want to know, do you think it's helpful for a child to see parents like resolving conflict within
Mm.
the household?
Good
Yeah.
question. Good
Great
question.
question. Great
Thank you.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that like, in terms of what kids are observing, um, I think that, you know, for one, I think kids are really perceptive and like pick up
Hmm.
on a lot of things, whether it is like yelling and screaming, or like something more subtle. So I think, again, being really mindful about like how you're communicating in front of children, because like they know. Um, but I think, I mean, I also think it depends on like what the conflict is, but like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I think about like not parentifying kids, so like not imposing these like allowing kids to be kids, and not putting these adult themes and things on them that like they don't otherwise need to be exposed to. And
Mm-hmm.
perhaps like, the way that some of that conflict might be coming out could be not allowing them to just like experience, like live their youth, and not be burdened by some of these things. So I think about it from that perspective. But to your second point, I do think that like demonstrating healthy communication skills, and that's not like never fight ever, it's more of like,
Yeah.
how are you communicating when there is um tension or conflict in something, and like, how are you resolving it, more importantly. Like, those I think are really helpful messages and values to instill in children, is like, how do you want to communicate when like things aren't working out, or not going your way, or like, or you're frustrated, or whatever. And like, how do you work through it, especially with like the people that you care about, who are supposed to be your supports. And so like,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some helpful things to like observe um, with conflict resolution, and solving problems in that way, that can be useful.
Yeah. Great answer. Woo. Fantastic. That's all that I have for brains. Should we rotten tomatin this?
Let's rotten tomatin the Wolfman or Wolfman.
Ooh.
No
Yes.
article.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
No article.
No
Get out of
article.
here with
Get
those
out of
articles.
Scram.
Scram!
Okay. What do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes? Jamie, let's start with you. What do you think the percent of this is on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm gonna guess like a 71.
Okay. Nikisha?
Yeah, I was going to say 76.
52.
Oh my God.
Ooh, wow.
And the audience score is 58.
Huh.
Oof.
Critics' consensus. Director Lee Whannell's attempt at bringing a fresh psychological dimension to the Wolfman comes at the expense of proper scares, although fans of body horror will still find some tasty morsels to chew on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think losing the... If he had nailed the psychological aspect, I wouldn't have missed the horror as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
All right. Moving on to Letterboxd. What do you think this has on Letterboxd? As a reminder, Letterboxd is 0 to 5.0, so you can have decimal points. But Nikisha, you start.
Oh gosh. Then I'm going to say like 2.4.
All right, Jamie?
I'm gonna say like a 3 flat.
2.6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people are not into this.
Wow.
That's so surprising to me.
Same.
Okay, here are the top... I didn't read these, I just saw one. Here are the top 3 reviews on this. One of these is really long, the third one, and it's just kind of like a dissertation on like... so I'll
no,
skip
thank
it.
you.
The first line is, what if a man were also a wolf? It's a question that's compelled filmmakers for more than 100 years. And then, okay, I'm done there. I'm going to stop.
Oh.
It's a long one, and it's not worth reading. The second one is worth reading, and it is, unfortunately, Daddy had that dog in him.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yes.
And the number 1 review is woof.
That's
Stellar.
great. Love it.
Stellar.
What?
Stellar.
Cool. Should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Yeses.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
Those are scares, shake. No, those are the 4. The 4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. We are going to rate them 1 through 10. How does this movie handle human behavior and mental health? How scary is it? And shakes is how much will it stick with you? Can you shake it off? And then we'll do our suggestions. But Jamie, why don't you start us off with your 4 S's, your 3 of the 4 S's?
Sure. For Skulls, I gave this a 6.5. Because I think it had some good ideas, but also not always the best execution on said ideas. For Scares, I gave this a 2.5. I think that there were moments that it got pretty tense. But again, I don't think that this is like an overly horrifying, scary movie. And for Shakes, I'm giving this a 4. Again, I think there are things that like are really interesting that like I'm still thinking about, but I think ultimately, if I'm going to think about like Lee Whannell, this is much lower. This is a lower option that's going to come to mind when I think about him and the movies he's made.
Mm-hmm.
Nikisha?
Yeah, mine are close. I have a flat 6 for Skulls, Scares a 2, and I did have Shakes at a 4, but I put it up to a 5. We'll just make it even in the middle.
Yeah, mine are actually very similar as well. I have a 6 for skulls. I have a 3 for scares, just because the body horror definitely like made me go
Mm-hmm.
ooh. Um, and then I have a 5.5 um for uh shakes. Wow, couldn't think of the word for shakes.
It's all
Um,
good.
who wants to go first for suggestions? Jamie?
I'll go. I mean, you already said it. Invisible Man. That movie is just so good,
Mm-hmm.
and deeply impactful, and like again, major trigger warning for intimate partner violence. But like, just if you want like the perfect example of what like not being believed as somebody who survived like domestic violence, that's the movie.
Hell yeah.
For sure. Uh, I mean, yes, same for Invisible Man, but like also the OG like Saw. If you just want like and Lee Waddell
Sure.
in it, so watch him act in
Fair.
it.
Um, I have the Wolfman 2010, the one with Benicio del Toro,
Mm.
Mm-hmm,
Emily
mm-hmm.
Blunt, and Anthony Hopkins. It has the makeup, it has the everything. I think it's totally underrated. It gets
Mm.
forgotten a lot, but I think it's pretty cool. So I'm going with that.
Nice. Okay. Well, that wraps up our episode of Wolfman. You can follow us on the socials. Oh,
Oh.
uh, Instagram and TikTok. It's back, so we're
For now.
there
I
for
think it's
now.
just a 75-day. It's
Extension
resumed, yeah, until who knows what happens next.
until who knows. So
So
follow
you have
us for those
75
days.
days to
Yes.
follow us on Instagram and YouTube and Blue Sky.
Yes. And Blue Sky, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Just hop on over. It's the same content, but with platforms that are going to actually be here. So follow us
Yep.
there. And producer Brian, where can they listen to us?
So you can listen to us wherever you get podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. Hi YouTube. You can also find us. Oh yeah, I forgot about those. You can find us on
Nice.
YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank
And thank
you.
you.
What are we just going to howl for the end of
I think
this?
so.
Oh. Where the hell you
Oh,
been, Loca?
oh
I have to think
God.
of another werewolf.
That was great, Jamie. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.